Welcome to Unite Now, where we bring unity to you, wherever you are.
All right, looks like almost everyone is here, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. So how does that sound? And so many good morning messages, so many messages already from people all around the world. I'm so excited to have you all here. Thank you for joining us, especially if I know some of you are in really distant time zones, as well as some of our presenters here as well. So very awesome to have everyone here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and give some context. Okay, hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Unite Now. My name is Ashley Alicea, and I'm a games evangelist at Unity, and I'm very excited to welcome you all to today's Unite Now Meet the Devs presentation, all about the Prefabs team. So we have two special guests with us here today, and I am going to instead let them introduce themselves. So Rune, Mass, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do at Unity.
Thank you, Ashley. Hi, I'm Rune. So I joined Unity back in 2009 because I'm passionate about creating solutions that make advanced and cool technology simple to use. I've been interested in creating multimedia and games since I was a teenager. And even now I'm an indie developer on the side as well. At Unity, I've been working on various things over the years centered around workflows like the animation window, the property drawer system, the 2D blend node, and the UGUI UI system, and of course, improved prefabs with support for nested prefabs and variants.
Hi, I'm Nyholm. I joined Unity in 2010. And before that, I worked in the games industry for around 8 years, working on various titles built on in-house engines. And after making games for many years, I found out that actually making the tools and solutions was where my passion is. So I joined Unity, and the first years I worked on the editor team and helped that there by building some of the core windows in the editor, the hierarchy, the project browser, and the audio mixer, and some other windows, and also worked on controls like Rune has, such as the tree view, for example. And the last years I've been working on in the scene management team on scene and prefabs systems, as we will mainly talk about today.
Excellent. Thank you. It's so awesome to have you both here. I think it's a really great opportunity for us to have this discussion with our community, because I think one of the best things about working at Unity is getting to talk to your team and many other teams about all the cool things that are coming down the pipeline, right? But now we can actually have these conversations with our community as well. Thank you again both for being here. I want to also ask, knowing your backgrounds and knowing that you work on the prefab team, what's your day-to-day actually like? What do you enjoy the most about the work you do currently at Unity? Oh, I think.
Yeah, I'm muted.
Okay.
So yeah, in a typical day, I either work on a new feature or work on maintaining existing features by improving them or fixing bugs in that area. And then we often have informal meetings where we discuss what the best ways are to implement various things. And we use a lot of the input we get from the users, from you guys, and from our internal production team to set up like use cases for the solutions we are making. But in general, a lot of our discussions is actually how do we actually solve these technical challenges in the implementation. So it's that's in short, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah, and For me, I mean, it's much the same. Mads and I are on the same team. We do many of the same things, so it's much the same as what he said. I also try to keep an eye on the Prefabs forum. If you've ever been in that forum, you'll probably have seen some posts by me now and then, possibly asking someone if they could maybe file a bug report so we can investigate some issue.
It's always nice to put a face to the names that you see on the forums, right? It's you never realize how much you're interacting with certain people until you see them in person. Thank you both. Now I see people have commented in the chat, and I know that's many of the users here are familiar with prefabs and the really exciting parts of working with prefabs. But for those who are pretty new to Unity or new to prefabs, like what can you give a quick primer about what are prefabs and some examples of how they're commonly used?
Sure. So in Unity, you build things out of game objects, and you can take a game object and make it into a prefab. Once it's a prefab, you can use it as a building block many times throughout your scenes. The building block itself is stored on disk as a prefab asset, and all the places you use it in your scenes are prefab instances. And the nice thing is, if you change the prefab asset, all the prefab instances will be updated too. You can also combine these building blocks into larger building blocks by making prefabs that contain instances of other prefabs, for instance. So that's prefabs at the most basic.
Perfect. And there's a lot more to it that we're going to discuss in this update. And I see more love happening for nested prefabs in the chat right now. And it brings me to want to talk about kind of like the meat of our discussion today, right? It's we're here because there's some exciting updates for how our users can work with prefabs in 2020.1. So let's take a quick look before we jump in. Let's see. I have to share my screen. I have to pause for 1 second while I get my screen set.
In Unity 2020.1, we're introducing the prefab mode in context. Now, when opening a prefab asset via an instance in the scene, by default it's open in context. Like always in prefab mode, you're editing the prefab asset itself, not an instance, but the context now is visible at the same time. By default, the context is grayed out, but you can easily switch it to be fully visible or fully hidden too. When prefab mode in context is opened, we actually hide the prefab instance from the scene and show the prefab asset contents in its place instead. This is how the prefab asset appears in the same position as the prefab instance had. When you open a prefab in prefab mode in context, you'll see that the position and rotation properties of the root transform are disabled for editing. This is because the position and rotation have been temporarily patched to get the same values as the instance has, so the prefab asset appears in the right position in the world. If you do need to edit the position or rotation of the root transform, you can do so by opening the prefab in isolation mode. Now, prefab instances can have other overridden properties besides root position and rotation. In the case of this streetlight prefab, the wires are in a different position and rotation on the instance than in the asset. By default, when you open the prefab in prefab mode in context, you'll see the position of the wires change so that you can see the appearance and values of the prefab asset itself. However, if you want to edit the prefab assets while also seeing the same overrides as the prefab instance in the scene has, you can enable the checkbox Show Overrides. With this enabled, we can see that the wires mesh retain its overridden rotation in prefab mode in context. The great thing about editing the streetlight prefab in context is that we can see how its light source interacts with the lighting from the scene, allowing us to make changes to the prefab and see how it affects our environment immediately. We hope prefab mode in context will be a useful tool in your prefab editing workflows, and we look forward to hearing about how you're using it in your projects. Thanks for watching.
Now, Yes, sorry, I'm seeing some of the folks talking about updating Unity. Yes. No, these updates are really awesome. I'm really excited about these particular updates. I think almost all of us who work in Unity work pretty extensively with the prefab workflows, no matter kind of what we're working on. So seeing updates like this is always very exciting. And I now, Mas, Rune, I want to talk to you about these updates. I'm so excited to see that these, especially this whole in context update is a big deal to me. But I want to hear your thoughts. Why is this important to you? Tell us more about your thoughts about these updates.
Sure. So I think prefab mode in context is kind of a simple feature, really. Well, it was a bit complicated for us to implement, but what I mean is that it doesn't take too long to explain how to use it because there's not that much to it. When you open a prefab, you can still see the context, the scene you're working on, or the outer prefab that your nested prefab might be part of. And this is exciting to me because this support people like level designers and UI designers who in certain situations before could have a hard time modifying a prefab asset without being able to see how it fits into the larger context. In particular, we've had a lot of people who are not too happy about the workflows around editing UI prefabs in prefab mode. Hopefully now this will work much better for people.
That's awesome to hear. What brought on these updates? How'd they come to be? And what did you learn in the process of bringing them to 2020.1?
Well, the in-context editing wasn't an idea we had all the way back when we started developing the new improved prefab system. We knew that we wanted to get the feature in the hands of users, so we decided to wait with the in-context editing for a future version. So that's why it comes a bit later than some users think this should be part of the first release, but we had to make some hard prioritization to decide how we're going to ship stuff. And then to your second question, what did we learn? I think this feature is one of the more, as Rune also mentioned, complex features we've been working on in the sense of it being part of touching a lot of other teams' areas, especially rendering and lighting. So we had to work closely with those teams to make the functionality work correctly in context. And we also, at the same time, we generalized the scene stage concept, so which we developed for the isolation editing. So we now have also a general preview scene stage concept that the users can use for creating isolated editing contexts. And we also worked with the Dutch team actually to make the camera scene culling mask work together with their live link mode feature together with our prefab stuff. So in general, we learned a lot on the way as well.
Awesome, thank you. And I know that y'all have been working very hard on this update, but you have some other updates that you're working on that I think you want to share as well. Can you tell us what else is coming up for prefabs of what you're able to share, of course?
Right. Okay. So one thing we are working on at the moment is called Prefab Encapsulation. This is still a work in progress. It's not coming out this year at all, but it will be in some future version of Unity. So it's called encapsulated prefabs. We've had a lot of people talk about how they have certain prefabs where the instances in the scene should never be modified, and they'd like a way to prevent accidentally modifying the prefab instances of those specific prefabs. So we are adding a feature where a prefab asset can be marked encapsulated using a toggle, and then instances of that prefab cannot be modified except for position, rotation, scale, and a few other select properties on the root. I'm going to try to show a video, if I can share my screen correctly, that shows just very briefly what this is about. I hope you're seeing my screen now.
Yes.
This is a prefab with several child objects. And if you click multiple times in the scene view, you might accidentally get a hold of a child and move the child instead of the whole prefab. And also you can see all the children in the hierarchy, even though you maybe not need them when you're not interested in modifying the prefab anyway. So the new features, there's a toggle on the prefab asset saying encapsulated. And you can see when that's enabled, all the children disappear in the hierarchy. And also when you click in the scene view, you never get a child, you always get the prefab root. And apart from that, you can see in the inspector, there's no components visible. And also you cannot add any new components. So it's very limited to only the root game objects and a few select properties on there that you can edit. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. Yeah, that's the basics. It's another feature that's quite simple to explain because there's not that much to it, but we hope that it's going to be useful when once it comes out.
And as you say that, somebody in the chat post, the encapsulation is so useful. I agree. And when we were preparing for the session and they showed me this, I gasped. And just it's these like little, like seemingly little things, right, that make a huge difference. And so thank you for sharing that update with us. That's really exciting to see. Mass, I know you wanted to share something as well.
Yeah, I was just about to mention another feature we are working on is a feature we call Prefab Instance Replacement. And it's also a rather simple feature to explain, and there's plenty of editor extensions that does the same, but we are adding some more functionality that makes it more useful. And it's a feature that allows you to replace prefab instances in scenes and prefabs, but while retaining added objects, overrides, and references using name-based matching. So this means that you can refactor your scene, you can refactor prefabs, and we're also working on looking into replacing the base of a prefab variant without losing existing references to the asset objects that the user might have from the scene. And I also have prepared a little video I'll try to share with you guys. And this should be it. This is just a small example scene where I select an instance here, a small flower, and I want to replace this with this new object field we've added. The UI is temporary, but just by dragging another prefab asset, you can replace that that prefab instance with another prefab instance. And the next thing I'm going to do is to add some references. So this trash bag has 2 references I can set up, and now I set a couple of references inside the instance to show that when we replace the character, to prove that the references survive from the trash bag. So now we changed it to a punk, and you'll see that the references survived the replacing. And the same goes for if we add objects to the instance relative to a certain transform, like this capsule. You'll see in the hierarchy that there's a small plus on the added capsule. So now we're adding an object to the thumb of this this punk, and when replacing the punk, we'll see that the added object also survives at the right location. And then the last one is just the multi-selection support. So this is just a short rundown of that as well.
Amazing. Thank you. It's so exciting to see these updates again. Like I keep saying how excited I am, but you could see in the chat as well, folks saying, prefab refactoring, that would be great. So cool. This is really great news. I'm so glad that you two are here to share these updates with the community. So now that we heard about what's coming in 2020.1, now that we know a little bit about what's coming down the pipeline for future TBD versions of Unity, let's open the floor to some questions from the community. I see that we have a lot coming into the Q&A section. A reminder for folks who are watching, if you posted a question in the chat and you want us to answer it, make sure you post it in the Q&A panel in Zoom so we don't miss your question. While we do that, I'm going to share some resources while we answer people's questions. And here we go. There we go. So let's talk about prefabs. So, and yeah, folks you can still hear me, right, Master Rune?
Yep.
Okay,
That's
cool.
good.
So we have some questions here in the Q&A panel that I'll go through. The first question being, can we adjust the tint/grayscale on the prefab in context mode?
Right. So for the gray out effect, we are reusing the same gray out effect that is used when you search for objects in the scene view. It was out of scope for us to begin to add more customization for this, especially because there needs to be work done to make it work with all the different render pipelines and such. So we are just using the same effect, and that means it's not possible at this time to customize the gray out effect, unfortunately.
All right, thank you. Another question, can you talk about how the InPlace Context feature works with respect to scene and stage management APIs as compared to how the isolated mode currently uses the same APIs? This may or may not impact some of the tool dev work I've been doing.
Yeah, okay, I can take that. So there's a new property on the prefab stage. So if you've worked with the prefab stage API, you still open a prefab stage when you open a prefab stage in context, and it simply has a mode property now where you can check if the mode is in isolation or in context. And as such, we've reused the foundation we laid down in the initial release. So ideally, it should not mean too much to your tooling, depending on what you do, of course. It's still the same API points you have.
Is the prefab mode optimized to work with the new DOTS standard that Unity is developing?
Yeah, I can take that as well. So the whole prefab system is game object based still, and it's still a feature that supports both the users that are using regular Unity game objects, and it supports the DOTS world in the sense that they take the prefabs you guys create and they convert them to entities in the optimized format that they use. So you should look at the prefab system as like a foundational authoring tooling that is then converted. Yeah.
Thanks. Let's see. Can we get the ability to reorder the hierarchy of a prefab without entering prefab mode? That's the only thing missing. That's the only thing that this user misses from the old system.
I can take that one. It's a bit of a complex issue. So it actually didn't work consistently ever. It would let you reorder in versions of Unity prior to 18.3, but it would not consistently save that order and apply it in a consistent way, even if you also reordered objects in the prefab itself. So this is something that has never worked quite reliably, and that's why we decided to we needed more consistency when we shipped 18.3. So we decided to not make things possible that didn't work in a consistent way anyway. That said, we have thought about certain ways that this might be possible to solve. It's in our backlog to look more into this, but we can't say anything about when we will get to that.
Thank you. There's a bunch of questions, so I'm going through and seeing which ones we can answer. Let's see. So, and I want to make, I want to see if I get this question right, but creating 2D game create prefabs and that prefab outside anchor, not a sign. I'm going to answer that question by through typing quickly while we take one of the next questions, just so I can get a clarification on what they're asking. Let's see. Are there changes coming for how Unity handles the implicit prefabs created from mesh imports? They seem to behave almost, but not quite like regular prefabs, and this has been a point of confusion when new team members learn Unity. Even as an experienced user, I find myself occasionally overlooking subtle icon differences and trying to do regular prefab things with a mesh prefab. But yeah, are changes coming to how Unity handles implicit prefabs created from mesh imports?
I can take that. So we call imported prefabs for model prefabs. It's when you create a model in 3ds Max or Blender and place it in the project folder. The imported result in Unity is a model prefab, which is kind of a special type of prefab. In some respects, it works quite similar to other prefabs, but they are read-only. You can't modify the result because that would conflict with the imported result if you modified the model in an external program, for example, and re-import it. So there's some inherent limitations there in that regular prefabs you modify inside Unity and model prefabs you modify outside. We have a different icon, like it was mentioned, for those, and it's not possible to open them in prefab mode. Unfortunately, I'm not quite sure on what the issues are or what the person who has the questions, what they're looking for in particular. It's something we can definitely talk about, and I would recommend to continue this discussion in the forum post that's attached to this webinar.
Thank you. Next question. So someone's asking, I'm really interested in delayed nested prefab instantiation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as of today, nested prefabs are fully unpacked in build time. This increases build size considerably for prefabs with many levels of prefab nesting. I would love to be able to change nested prefabs into a reference so that they are instantiated at runtime, while also maintaining all of their overrides. Is there an easy way to do this right now? Do you have any plans to implement this functionality?
I'm not sure I can answer that question here. I understand what what the user wants here, but it's the short answer is no. There's no plans to do that right now. Prefabs are expanded for loading performance, and as you also say, the overrides would need a new new way to save that. Again, so this is a use case that we can discuss, and as far as I know, there's no plans to implement this. But we have 2 other guys on the team that might have some more input to this. So I would also suggest to put this question in the forum post for this session in the forum, and we'll see if we can get a better answer for you there.
Right, and if I can add a little bit, one of the big challenges with something like this is that the whole implementation of how prefabs work, how overrides on prefabs work, and stuff like that is built on top of editor functionality that is an editor serialization that is only a part of the editor and is not part of the runtime at all. So we would need to, the way that things are serialized and saved for games is a different format that where we cannot easily build all the editor functionality on top, because it's not optimized for easy editing and modification and retaining authoring information. It's optimized for performance in the build. So it's kind of 2 separate systems that makes it quite a challenge to make editor functionality that's made for the editor also work at runtime.
Thank you. Let's see. Checking. The last question. Someone's asking, do you have mechanisms to obfuscate prefabs?
Not sure I understand what the user means here, or what's meant here. So can that be clarified?
I'll ask to clarify in the chat, but I think they might mean how like to set certain prefabs to be hidden, possibly. Either way, if anyone here wants to elaborate more on their question or re-clarify their question, we're hitting our running out of time mark pretty soon. So I would actually recommend that you go ahead and post this. We have a special forum post dedicated to this session, and it's that Q&A link right here on the side. There is another question: editing a canvas prefab with multiple nested UI element prefabs inside is currently a pain point for our team, and human error mistakes are high. Will edit in context work with canvases?
Yeah, it should. There are various potential edge cases, but and I'm not sure I understand the specific use case, but at least one issue we've been seeing with people have is when they edit a prefab and it stretches to the parent size, for example, and then suddenly it has a completely different size in prefab mode because the parent canvas is the screen size, and that definitely is a better experience in prefab mode context, because the parent rig transform has the same size as it does in the scene. But this specific use case where the prefab itself has multiple canvases, it's too much for me to think through all the consequences in my head right now. So I would I hope it works, but it's something you can try out and see if it works in the beta right now. And if there's something you think maybe could work in a different way, it's something we could take up in the forum thread. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe one or two final questions. We can only include hierarchy in the public input data in the form of prefabs? Or can we only include hierarchies in the public input data in the form of prefabs? Also clarify.
So the question here is, what is meant by public input data? yeah, I think maybe more info for that as well on the forum would be good. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for asking these questions. We're very excited for these updates. I think especially more so even seeing folks here excited about these updates as well is really nice. If we didn't get to answer your question in this session, we're going to spend the next couple of days on this specific forum post here on unity.com/prefabs-q-a. So if you have any follow-ups, or if you try out these features and you have any feedback to share, if you have feedback to share about prefabs in general, that forum post is the place to let us know. A lot of these features and updates that we're doing, we're able to do them because of users like you and the feedback that you provide us. We always try to listen and do what we can. So we love to continue this conversation over on the forums. Now, again, because we are wrapping up, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who joined today. Thank you, Mads. Thank you, Rune, for sharing all these wonderful updates with us. And I know that many of you see an update like this, and maybe this is the first you heard about the prefab updates. But if you want to hear about new features that are coming to Unity, like what we showed today, check out our beta program. Here's the link on unity.com/beta-program. Now, this is the place to go if you want to learn about upcoming new pre-release features, and not just what the prefab team is working on, but many of the teams at Unity. And you could sign up for a newsletter that will regularly send updates about what's coming down the pipeline. Now, also, we are sharing new updates about what's coming for beta and experimental features on the forums as well. So this last link down here for the Unity forums, that's the place to go if you want to find out and try kind of experimental features, things like the prefab encapsulation or instant replacement early on, and let us know what you think. So you can sign up and join us on those beta and experimental features forum as well. But again, thank you so much. Oh, you know what? That's a great point. Someone's asked me if I can post the links in the chat. So once we wrap up, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll go ahead and post those links in the chat so you can have access to them easily. But I think we're going to wrap it up from here. So thank you again so much, everyone. This was awesome. It was fun getting hyped with you all. And thank you for all the great questions. This is one of the best kind of Unite Now Q&A sessions I think we've had yet. So thank you so much. We will see you on the forums, online, wherever else we may cross paths. I hope you have a good day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you again. Take care.
And thank you, Ashley, and everyone who joined. Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Posting the links in the chat shortly.